one of the things online going around right now is that, and I know it's speculation, I know it's theory, I know it's conjecture, whatever, okay, conspiracy, that Charlie was scared that if he ever spoke out against like Israel and the nation of Israel, that he was fearful that they would try to kill him. And there's so many clips right now going around where he is starting to critique Israel, and he was one of their biggest advocates, most outspoken advocate for the nation, and all of it. And there's a lot of clips of him lately going out and critiquing or criticizing, right, the nation of Israel, even calling for the release of the Epstein files, full release, unredacted. Everybody needs to know. And I mean, obviously, like the dispensational Christian side is all about support for Israel. And I get it. I understand the arguments why the chosen people stuff. We've had that debate here on this show, so I don't want to get into that. But what I want to ask you is, what if that were true, if it comes out, listen, and I don't think it ever will, but hypothetically, if it came out that they were behind something like this, something this heinous, this atrocious, this is our JFK moment for like me, Dennis, a bunch of other college kids. We'll never forget this, right? It's our 9/11. It's our 9/10. But if it comes out that they were involved in something like this, what does that do to like Christians who are like I don't know what to call it, pro-Israel, Zionist, I don't know, what do you call it? What does that do?
Well, I mean, I think the last conversation that we had here, again, like you said, I don't want to rehash that, but one of the things that I've been talking about lately is having a balanced spiritual approach, biblical approach, in that, certainly I support Israel's right to be in the land, not necessarily to be violent. I'm not saying that, just the promises. Let me rephrase it. But at the same time, I've been reminding Christians that, hey, look, let's acknowledge from a spiritual perspective for a moment. We can talk about democracy, we can talk about all that. That's secular if you wanted, but from a spiritual perspective, the nation of Israel is in rebellion against God. End of story. Okay, this isn't anti-Semitism. They reject Jesus. Okay, that's okay. So not only the secular, they reject, and the religious actually despise Jesus very much. So let's be honest. Okay, we need to be honest with the Israel that we see there. Still being God's chosen people, and chosen does not mean saved. Have you read your Bible? I mean, this is like I tell people, have you read the book of Judges? Where they're chopping up concubines and sending them into the different parts of the tribes. I mean,
wow.
These are God's chosen people, but yet they were extremely lost. And so that's a general statement, because there was obviously individuals saved. So, but here's the point: is if something like this was to come out, I think it would hopefully, again, this is a big if, right? Okay, we're hypothetical.
Sure.
Okay. But my hope that it would shatter. That's what I've been talking about lately in all my presentations, is trying to shatter this illusion, which I think is unbalanced. The unbalanced of this indiscriminate, support for everything. And what I've seen is even some people who they are unwilling to share that. Well, I know that they don't believe in Jesus, but I still need to support them, and maybe they're going to be saved without Jesus. When did we change the gospel? So, but again,
right.
It's also a reminder that we're living in the same time as 50 AD when Paul wrote the book of Romans. It's like, hey guys, Paul was saddened by that. He was saddened by the behavior of his people, his brothers, and he desired for them to be saved. And so, if something like this was come out, I think it would certainly shatter some of those illusions that some Christians, not all, and not all dispensationalists or not all futurists do, because I try to maintain a balanced perspective, that I'm not naive about the spiritual state of modern Israel. It's horrible. from a spiritual perspective.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that, Mondo.
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you,
that
honestly.
that means a lot because there's people who are just so hard-nosed on one side, right? And they won't look at it. They won't even, like, listen
Mhm.
to it, you know? We've
Yeah, yeah,
had feedback from people, even talking to people about this. They're mad at us, you know, for like,
yeah.
"Why are you even talking about this?"
It's that indiscriminate support,
Yeah.
right? And so if we call out the evil, the sin from that side, we get called like anti-Semites and
Yeah.
non-Christian because we don't support the nation. What if that nation just killed one of the
Mhm.
largest Christian leaders in America and destabilized us like no other? Am I still not Christian because I say that that's not good and that that was a sin? You know what I mean? So I'm really thankful that you articulated that so well because that to me is also honestly, Mondo, like that's probably one of Israel's biggest fears is that they lose support of
Mhm.
the evangelical Christian community, as a result of their whatever they do, meddlings, Even my parents are in town from Romania. Okay, they're gonna stay with us a couple months. They usually visit us once a year. And we were talking about a lot of this stuff yesterday, and the Epstein files come up. That they're from Romania, and they're like, "What's going on with the Epstein files?" Like they want updates because they know I'm like plugged in.
I'd like to know too what's going on with it.
Wouldn't we all?
Totally, totally. And I told him, I'm like, hey, it's just a coincidence, that once Epstein got attached to Israel or to Mossad as being some sort of agent or something like that, suddenly nothing gets released anymore, as if to hide that connection so public support for Israel doesn't change. Because if it came out that their intelligence agencies had operatives in the US that were violating children at nauseum,
Mm.
so that they can have blackmail and control. That might change public opinion a little bit out here in these parts of town. So I tell her that and I'm like, "Oh, wow." And she said something and she's like, "Well, it sounds like maybe." I don't know, should I do her accent or just say it normally?
Always do her accent.
Always do that,
Always.
right? She's like, "Well, it sounds like maybe in the Bible when it says all the nation come against Israel, maybe it's because they are very evil." And I'm like, "Oh
Oh,
my God, light
yeah.
bulb."
Right.
I grew up thinking like maybe they just come against Israel because, oh my God, Israel, we hate them for no reason, or they're just such good people, or they're like a harbinger of light in a dark world. And so everybody hates them and wants to. But what if not? What if people are just not happy with them because of the meddling, you know? And that's why everybody rises up in the end times. I'm like, "Hey mom, that's a really good observation. Maybe that's a possibility." And I'm not saying that that's the case, just the convo with me and my mom.
I think we should have her
Um,
on the podcast. That's for sure.
to hear her accent, right?
For that too.
But but if something comes out that this is true, that they were somehow involved, I think that would be a pretty big nail in the coffin of support from a lot of Americans, a lot.
Yeah, but they're
Um,
probably not gonna believe it, man. I mean, that's the thing these days. The problem is what to believe.
that's true, bro.
You
That's
can't
true.
everything gets spun so
That's
so
true.
twisted and so deceitful now. I mean, everything is spun. Everything is in one way or the other, and you just if you're gonna be indiscriminate, like you said, earlier, then you're just gonna be indiscriminate. Like, you're just gonna fall on one side. If you're not putting the time and the energy and the effort to look into this and to see both sides and to talk to people and actually have good conversation about this, you're gonna be stuck. You're gonna be stuck in one way of thinking and one idea, and that's why I appreciate you, Mondo, so much because
Mm.
we know, like, you side more on, like, hey, yeah, for a lot more support for Israel. Um, than me. I would say I'm not going to throw Ben under the bus, but for myself. But but I appreciate that we can have this conversation and look at it from both sides. Someone said in the chat, they said we can't view Israel as a whole because of their government, just as you can't base every American based off their government. That's a good, observation. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, because American as a Christian nation, right? Like, no, it's not.
Mm.
Like,
Right.
um, So yeah, I think that we just have to be careful and just be honest and be honest. Hey, this is not right. Like there's things that they're doing that's not right. Whether they're behind the Charlie Kirk thing, we don't know.
No, we don't. I'm just
We
saying that
can't.
that's
Yeah,
I
we
wanna
can't
talk
speculate.
about that because that is a big thing going on
It's coming
online
out
right
though.
now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Lots of
huge,
people
bro.
are talking about it for sure. I don't know
Okay.
if you caught this, Mondo, yet, but it is. It's happening.
Yeah. And I think this is where, you know, I hear a lot of, like, myself included. I wasn't alive when JFK was assassinated. I mean, I was born
He's
10
like,
years
"Hey,
later.
I'm not that old, guys."
Yeah, I'm not even
Senior.
that old. So this, in the same way, I was thinking something similar, that what is going on here was this person, the Lee Harvey Oswald, who, who's the Jack Ruby coming along, and what it looks like. And obviously, we're speaking in generalities,
Right.
and we're reminded of what ifs. And I think of the whole situation. Because let me just say one more thing, because I think sometimes, when I talk about support for Israel, what I mean by that, and just so that's clear, is I believe there's a future for Israel, and it's a future where they get saved. They get
Sure.
saved through Jesus Christ. Okay. And I support the scriptures that say that. And so my support for Israel is, okay, again, one of the questions that I ask in my presentations is I say, does Israel belong in the land? Is the land theirs by covenant? I still believe that's true. Okay, but the second question I ask is, does Israel deserve to be in the land? And for the first
That's a good
question,
question.
everybody's like, oh, yes, yes. And I said, I agree.
Right.
Romans 9, the promises, the covenants are still there. The land was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants. Okay. So the second question, does Israel deserve to be in the land? And everybody's like, they don't know what to say. And then some
Crickets.
people, they're like, yes. And I said, well, you know what? Instead of giving you my opinion, let's look at scripture. And I go to Deuteronomy 9, and I said, hey, look, this is when Moses was on Mount Nebo. This is before they went into land. They were just getting ready to go in the land under Joshua. And Moses is talking to them. He's not going into the land himself. He says, okay, everybody, the Israelites, you're going in the land. But I want to remind you that it's not because of your righteousness. And he goes, listen, over and over and over, and says, in fact, you're stiff-necked and stubborn. And so what I said, my response was, does Israel deserve to be in the land? No, they have never deserved to be in the land
That's true.
at all, even
It's true.
today. So let's, to me, and then I proceed to go through and just talk about some of the spiritual. Again, as we know, Tel Aviv is the gay capital of the Middle East.
Right.
Do Christians support that?
Right.
Come on, guys. This is where we have to be honest. We recognize, again, I defend their right to the covenants, and there's a future, okay?
Right.
But I'm not defending Tel Aviv. I'm not defending their hatred of Jesus. So I think, honestly, let's be honest, that if Jesus himself came to Israel today, he probably would be killed by the nation that we generally support.
Right.
So I think this is interesting to bring this up theoretically, because the national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, he hates Christians.
Right.
He hates Christians.
Right.
He was going out of his way to minimize any of some attacks that were happening, and he was rejecting visas. And so, look, we just need to be honest. I'm not anti-Israel by any means, but I want to be honest enough as a Christian to say, look, their spiritual state is absolutely horrible. They reject Jesus, and that's the purpose of the tribulation period. That's between them and the Lord. And so when we do look at the future, it's going to be very difficult for them. There's going to be some massive trouble for them.
Right.
And why? Because God loves them. Now, chosenness doesn't mean saved. It means separated as his people, because there's an Old Testament chosenness and there's a New Testament chosenness. It's different. So I can remind people, my fellow Christians, is remember in the book of Ezekiel, they were having basically orgies in the temple. In the temple. And this is what God shows Ezekiel. Look at what they're doing inside the temple itself. And so I show an article where Satanism is rampant in the state of Israel today. Satanism.
Right.
Really?
And you go, well, have you read the book of Ezekiel? It was happening then too.
Right.
So these are, did they lose God's chosenness? No, but again, chosenness doesn't mean saved. Get that out of
Okay.
our mind.
I think that's the distinction for me too, right? That Dennis, do you remember when we had Cam on and for 30 minutes we're like arguing about chosen versus saved? Like it just would not, it would not click for me.
Right.
That you can be the chosen people of God and go to hell. You know? Because
you can.
Because in the New Testament, the chosen people of God are the chosen people of God. You can't take them out of his hand. You can't, okay. But then you realize that like even while in exile, even while God was punishing them in the Old Testament and slaughtering them and just wanted to start over. He wanted to kill all of them and start over with Moses, and they were still his chosen. You know what I'm saying? And that to me, like realizing that there's a difference between salvation and chosen in the sense of that he still has a plan. That's it.
For the Old Testament. Yeah. Old Testament, different word. The meaning is different in Old Testament theology than in the New Testament. Chosenness in the New Testament is not a national thing. It's not a group thing. It's an individual thing. Well, in the Old Testament, chosenness was a group. It was a people. But again, not the same as what we see in the New Testament, which equals salvation. If we can grasp the distinction, then for me, it's like, oh, okay. And most people, when I was out there teaching, they're so like, okay, so I can say they're still God's chosen people, but not imply that I think they're all saved. Yes, you can.
Right.
I love that. I'm so glad you said that. That's huge for me too. Yeah. And for our chat, there are people who are just like, man, you explained that so well. Thank you. So that was awesome.